Here's to this stuff. But anyway, listen, focus the Power Hour brought to you by, sponsored by Power Interfaith. And the views of this show, as previously stated, are those of our own, the host, sitting across from Bishop Dwayne Royster. Royster, what's
What's
up?
going on, the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler? I hope you had a good weekend, my brother. We
Uh,
actually didn't talk this weekend. That was actually shocking. So I was like,
yeah, no, I think we probably both just like worn out, man. I tell you, and I had a sweet 16 this weekend. I have three daughters
mm,
and one son. And for some reason, the three daughters conspired against me about a year ago. I know it was a conspiracy because in a 30-day period, we had the beginning of one starting college, one getting married, and one turning 16. They were working on this for some time.
and they were just determined to stress you out, determined to stress you out.
And my bank account looks like all three of those things happened in 30 days. I'm like, come on, first of the year. I mean, first of the month.
Yes.
Payday. Hey, listen, folks, you can get with us on today. Follow us on social media. You can watch this show live and interact with others. This developing Power Hour family early in the morning from 6 to 7 every Monday through Friday. Check us out on Facebook at WURD Radio. You can also watch it if you're one of those kind of more quiet people. You don't need all that drama, but you do want to see it. Then go to YouTube. I mean, again, it's a very solid stream, but ain't not much happening by way of conversation. But if you want the heated debate, come on into Facebook. If you want to go old school, you can download the app in your favorite app store. Listen to it while you're working out, while you're driving around. There's not much traffic out there, but again, you can listen to us there, or you can just go really old school, 900 AM, 96.1 FM. Glad to have you today. Quasa's holding it down for us on this morning. And listen, I mean, let me just acknowledge just one little quick thing that if you are a Philadelphia sports fan right now, I love Philly. I've been here for a long time, but there's no secret that I'm a Warriors, Raiders, Athletics fan all my life. Doesn't matter where I live.
We'll
Come on, I
forgive you.
grew up.
We'll forgive
I,
you. We forgive you.
I grew up there. I wouldn't begrudge you from Philly if you were living somewhere else and you kept your teams with you. So those have always been my teams. I have come to have an appreciation for Philadelphia sports and particular fans. But right now, I know that the Ben Franklin Bridge can't hold all the people that want to jump off of it this morning. Watching Nick Foles yesterday lead the Bears back and beat the Falcons, doing what Nick always does, coming off the bench and just turning it on. And Jimmy Butler leading the Miami Heat to the NBA Finals in improbable fashion to face LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I mean, if you're just a Philadelphia fan, and the Phillies, by the way, only needing to win one game out of three this weekend to get in the playoffs, and they lost all three, got swept by the Rays. So we're going to give you something to take your mind off of all of that today. Some other conversation. Man, that must suck.
Well, let me just say this, right? So I don't really follow sports. Politics is my sport. I always tell people that. But let me just say, years ago, when there was a choice between Carson Wentz and Nick Foles, I was like, stick with what wins. Stick with the one that wins. And they were like, oh, Carson Wentz is the future of the team. He's going to
Yep.
do this. He's going to do that. Nick Foles is just a backup quarterback. And I'm like, Nick keeps winning. Nick keeps getting us into the playoffs. Nick picks up the team when Carson Wentz fails every season that he had been with us. Nick Foles picked up the team and moved it further along down the line. So I deeply struggle with this whole thing about Carson Wentz. He hasn't delivered yet that I could see by any means. And I think it was a tragic mistake that they thought Nick Foles was too old and didn't really have it left in him. And now he's doing wonderful things for other teams, and we are struggling and suffering right now. So,
It's the
that's
Philadelphia way. I don't understand it, but it is what it is. And yesterday was like, I mean, you can't, again, so I follow, I do, I'm like a crazy sports fan. So, I mean, and my boy is from Atlanta. Well, and he's on the phone with me like, oh my God, the Falcons gonna do it again. They're gonna lose this game. And I said, what happened? He said, they brought Nick Foles in from Chicago. I said, yep, y'all about to lose. Because that's what Nick does, and he could have been doing it for Philadelphia. But
yeah.
hey, tying against the Bengals, I guess that's not bad. Sorry.
Philly,
Hey,
well, wait a
so
minute. Raphael said Philly team owners and GMs don't know how to construct professional sports teams. They live in the shadow of New York City and no civic esteem as the city is the problem. Now, first, let me just say, Raphael, you think Philadelphia's always got a problem because it's in the shadow of New York City. Let me just say this, though. I have a friend of mine who says all the time that Baltimore and Philadelphia have like issues because they're caught in the shadow of DC and New York City. So I mean, you're actually verifying something that he said.
yeah,
However, I think the problem with Philadelphia sports teams is the same problem with Philadelphia politicians. There's a lack of imagination in seeing possibilities. So that would be my take on it.
That's Raphael's take on everything. It's like, what's wrong with the streets department? Philadelphia lives in the shadow of DC and New York, and his streets department. I'm sorry, Raphael. I love Raphael's takes, but that is pretty much his answer for all of life's problems.
So I just think that you know we don't. I don't know what it is. We just don't. We don't have imagination. We can't see possibility. I can't think. You had Nick Foles that took the team further as a backup than most starting quarterbacks did, and then when the time comes, you pick Carson Wentz over Nick Foles. I don't. That doesn't make sense to me. But
Yeah, well, I
anyway,
know. We had that with all those big debates. I mean, that were going on, at the time, and folk were again going, in on, this debate, and like you said, Carson Wentz is the future, and I'm like, dude, go with who's winning. I mean, I was just talking about the Super Bowl win, telling someone who's not from Philly that night, 'cause I took my kids down. They grew up here, so they're Eagle fans. So I took them down. They couldn't drive themselves at that time, and remember watching all the old men sitting on Broad Street on the sidewalk, sobbing in their hands. Right? I mean, just thank you, God. You can take me now. And I'm saying you had enough to get about two or three of those rings. Malcolm Jenkins now, killing it in New Orleans. But hey, it is
yeah,
what it is. Hey, so listen, let's talk about your favorite sport then, politics.
yes,
A
yes,
lot happening in the world of politics over the weekend. Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so several big stories, right? Obviously, before the tax return story came out in the New York Times, the big story was really about, Amy Coney Barrett being
Right.
nominated as a Supreme Court justice, and how that fight is going to happen, what that's going to do to the Supreme Court, all of those issues.
Hmm.
But then you get this bombshell report about Donald Trump paying. So I knew something was big when I went on Facebook on my timeline yesterday, and I saw one of the young uh, pastor activists that I know who just posted 750 question mark. I did more than that, and I'm like, uh-oh. And people like comment. I'm like, what did I miss? So in 2016 and in 2017, according to the report by the New York Times, Donald Trump, Uber billionaire, paid a total of $750, not 750,000, not 7.5 million, not 75 million, but in each of those 2 years, according to the Times, he paid $750. A deeper dive into the previous 15 years showed that in 10 of the 15, he paid zero taxes
Yes.
and zero federal taxes. Let's be very clear about that. This is the federal return, so we don't know about state and local, but zero federal taxes according to the Times. He's disputing it, but we know it's not going to have an impact at all on his believers because they probably think that makes him a good businessman. I think it makes them suckers. But what's your read on this? I mean, this
Yeah.
is now we know why he didn't want his tax returns to come out.
Yeah, I mean, let's break this down a little bit. So there's a couple things that are going on here that I think it's really important to take a look at. So not only each of those years, he had like a $50 million loss on his taxes. So that was a major piece of this. He winds up paying 751 year. What was and also in that report, and I was actually reading the abridged version through Huffington Post. was that there were several countries, right? So the emolument clause says you can't get money from foreign governments, but he was getting money from the Philippines, India, Scotland, and two other countries where he had golf courses at, and in those countries paid a total of $500,000 of taxes, where he only paid $750 in taxes to the United States. So there's some real clear, issue here with his taxes, with what he's doing in this country, with the way that he is using U.S. tax law to pay minimal taxes at best. And then, he claims part of it was that because of his U.S. taxes, he was able to claim like housing expenses, his $75,000 haircuts that he was getting.
Wait. You've done a deeper dive than I have.
Yes.
Please back up.
Yes.
His what?
We've all adjusted our daily
support
routines.
independent.
He was able, because of when he was on The Apprentice, he was able to write off $75,000 in hairstyling cost as a tax write-off because of where he was able to do. Yes, and so as a result of that, because he spent so much money on haircuts and hairstyling, which I think he overpaid for, then he was able to claim that on his taxes as a business write-off because of his work on The Apprentice. So he hired a specific hairstylist to deal with his hair. So he was also able to take his planes as tax write-off, his houses as tax write-offs, and a bunch of other things.
So let's give credit where credit is due. That hairstyle is amazing, because every time I think when the wind is blowing, that thing is going to come right off and go somewhere. That thing just stands there, man, like a long plank. And I mean, I don't know how. So I think it may be worth $70,000. I don't want to just, I mean, that is not a hairstylist, my friend. That's a hair artist. And an artist is worth 70,000. Trump ought to stop. I mean, how do you think? Here's the funny part to me. It's really sad, but like, you've got people who are out here, following him. And again, I get it. If it's all about abortion for you, and it's a religious issue, I'm not going to knock you. I understand it, right? If it's just simply like, you know what, I'll do anything to change the court because that's my only issue. But for a lot of people who support him, that's not the issue, right? It's something totally different. And I'm like, dude, he's always talking about, he reportedly said people who go off to war and lose their lives are losers and suckers. Yeah. We know openly what he said about John McCain and POWs, that, his heroes are the people who don't get caught. And once again, he throws in your face that he can do anything. And so you basically, I mean, listen, taxes were paid. There's some way that we keep this country open, and guess who pays it? The poorest people in this country, and the shrinking middle class have allowed him to walk off unscathed, and he's not broken any law in doing this, right? The laws have been worked, to the advantage of the wealthy, right? And so, look, I mean, salute, man. You got it like that, and so I have an issue with the people who support it.
Well,
and do not vote for their own interest.
How do you support somebody to be the leader of a country to which he doesn't think he has any obligation or responsibility to help, run that country in terms of paying taxes? So let me just go back and look at this, right? So in 2017, when he paid $750 to the U.S. government, he or his companies paid $16,000 in Panama, $145,000 in India, and $157,000 in the Philippines. But he can only give the U.S. $750, right? Because he was using every law that was afforded him to basically let rich people be able to get away from taxes. Yet, there are folk that make a serious fraction of what he is doing that are paying $16,000, $17,000, $18,000, $20,000 a year in taxes to the U.S. government, not getting write-offs, to do that. Now, here's the other thing. One of the biggest issues that Donald Trump has right now, though, is that he owes $421 million in debt. And because of some of the debates and some of the audits that he's been through, he has been going through a series of audits with the IRS. there's a possibility that he could owe the IRS $100 million in penalties because of what it is. Now, this creates a whole nother scenario because the very government department that he hates and despises and does everything he could potentially do to, try to minimize what he owes them, he's now in audit and could potentially owe them $100 million. So what do you do to the department that you owe $100 million to that you don't want to pay $100 million to? Right.
Well, I'm just waiting for him to basically fire the head of the IRS and put in Don Jr. or Eric, maybe even Barron. It's not too, Barron, it's time for you to step your game up. I know you think, you tell us you got middle school and high school, but you're like dead weight right now, Barron. Come on, bro, get into the game. Everybody in the Trump family works some kind of business. Give the IRS to Barron or to the other daughter that he doesn't really care too much about. I mean, it's like he only has one daughter. It's like, here's Ivanka. And did you see that actually in the when he in the RNC did the acceptance speech? he had Ivanka stand up, showered praise on her. She sat down and you're waiting for him to go to the other kids. He just went back to talking. And they're all looking like, man, we hate you. Hey, look, we're like 2 minutes over break. We got to take a break and we come back. Let's talk about Donald Trump's platinum plan for black folk. I'm surprised he didn't call it first 100 ladies get in free. It's like, man, he is so stereotypical. He has such a low opinion of black folk. We'll be right back with the Power Hour after this break.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
But they've got the experience.
I'm still in shock 3 or 4 years later that we're in this position now. Our democracy is at a pivotal point.
From the top, we don't trust our government. We see the trouble we're in economically. We've got 170,000 Americans dead, and yet this president will do anything he can to make it seem like things are better than they are.
I did more for the black community than anybody with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln.
It's our responsibility. If we don't lead that effort to make things better, we can't ask other people to do it. There is no good reason not to vote.
Right, we need to have individuals that are in office like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
They are our best shot to take us forward.
And that's what makes me incredibly hopeful, but we really do have to work for this thing.
To the thousands who did not vote, we need you to show up for our future and for our country.
You cannot sit on the sidelines. You got to get in the game.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Keystone First VIP Choice HMO SNP Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan has a 4 out of 5 star rating and is one of the highest rated Medicare plans in the region. Keystone First VIP Choice and you are better together. If you live in Philadelphia, Bucks, Chester, Montgomery, or Delaware County, and you have both Medicare and Medicaid, choose the Medicare plan that is working to help you get better care. Enjoy extra benefits at no cost to you with Keystone First VIP Choice. You get benefits like dental, vision, and transportation to and from your medical appointments. They also cover a fitness membership to a gym of your choice. $150 toward over-the-counter pharmacy items. There's no copay for doctor's visits. They offer a large provider network, a great prescription plan, dental coverage, and even eyeglasses. Plus, you don't have to wait for open enrollment. You can change your coverage every quarter. Keystone First VIP Choice. The name you trust, the service you deserve. Call Keystone First VIP Choice today at 1-877-686-1760 or visit KeystoneFirstVIPChoice.com.
Trump spends his time golfing, while COVID-19 hits the black community hard. It's not just wrong, it's immoral. We need Joe Biden. Joe takes COVID-19 seriously and understands the economic and health impact it's had on our community. Joe will listen to the medical experts, and he will protect Obamacare. Trump, he won't even wear a mask. Request a ballot now. Make a plan to vote. Our lives depend on it. Paid for by Ask Me People, which is responsible for the content of this ad. AskMePeople.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Now, a traffic update on Word Radio.
Good morning. Still a pretty good ride here in Philadelphia this morning. Not too bad. 95 southbound, Display Volume Building, coming down through Bridge through that work zone. Northbound looking good. Divine Expressway through Center City in pretty good shape. Schuylkill Expressway westbound, following between Bear and South through that ongoing construction. Further west, no other problems. Eastbound moving fine. PA Turnpike and the Blue Route 476 moving fine. In New Jersey, 42, 55, 295 trouble-free into Philadelphia. No problems on the area bridges. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. I'm Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. Mark Kelly Tyler and Dwayne David Royster. We jumped in early this morning, first talking about Philly sports to break the, I'm sure everybody was waiting for us to jump in on the Trump stuff, and we just held off for a minute, just teasing it out until we finally could not hold it anymore and began to talk about the Trump bombshells that were dropped over this weekend with regard to his taxes, and so many other revelations that came out about how Donald Trump spends his money. Do you remember when the Clintons got their haircut in the White House? I think it was like a $200 haircut, and everybody was having a fit because they spent $200 on a haircut. Imagine spending $70,000. That's all I'm saying. I just
so Trump, he enjoys the fact that he walked into office as a celebrity, right? I mean, we may not like it, but he was a celebrity. He is a celebrity. I mean, he had a cameo in Home Alone, the movie. He's in the lyrics of at least 24 rap songs. You know what I mean? Like when people want to equate their level of wealth, they always tie it into Trump. So even though he's been problematic going back to his earliest days as a businessman, first with housing for black folk in New York, later with his attacks on the Central Park Five, he's kind of occupied that dual space. And so I think that there's something about people in America in particular, that there is a willingness to allow certain things for celebrities that would not be acceptable to anybody else. And so he doesn't only benefit from it, but he abuses it. Like you said, 70 grand. My concern and my real, fear about this is that, as you say, if the New York Times story is right, and if he has all this money from these other governments or foreign entities, a lot of the story says that these notes are coming up soon. If you're the president of the United States and we have foreign policy decisions, forget that. Let's talk about American lives at stake, right? Where you have, it's either sending people in, pulling people out, all these other kind of things that could happen with foreign policy. If they're being driven by your own desire to cover your butt, I mean, this is why you don't want a president who has financial entanglements like this. This was a big issue, but apparently folk just kind of looked beyond it because for some reason, this was worse than, I don't know, whatever it was Hillary Clinton did. I can't remember. I guess it was the email scandal.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, this is very dangerous and people need to pay attention.
I just want to know, is Jada going to take him to the red table since he has so many entanglements?
Wow, man. You know what? I did get a chance to watch over the weekend. Speaking of Jada.
What's that?
Gemini Man. Have you seen that?
That was old, isn't it? That's like that's from
Came out last year, but I mean,
Yeah, no, I didn't see it because I didn't see that. No.
Well, so shout out to the Philly homie Will Smith. But in the movie, he fights his younger self.
He plays himself. Yes. Okay.
And all you keep thinking about when you're watching him fight his younger self is all that happened earlier this year. It's so bad.
Entanglements.
Sorry about that, man. Yeah.
That's right. All right, we got to get back on the real stuff here. So.
Well, all right. So can we talk?
You want to talk about his plan for black folk? Come on, talk about the plan for black folk.
So he went to Atlanta, of all places, the Black Mecca. It is what the Harlem Renaissance was in the 1920s and 30s for black folk. It's the ATL, right? I mean, in fact, it's so the Black Mecca, all you have to do is say, I'm going to the A, and black folk know where you're going, right? You go down to the home of Raphael's Morehouse, Ma Clark, Stacey Abrams is Spelman, shout out to Morris Brown, ITC, Morehouse School of Medicine. It is the Black Mecca. And you go there to pitch to black folk, that you have been the best president for black folk. And he begrudgingly says, I better say, other than Abraham Lincoln, because after all, he did, quote unquote, set the slaves free. And he pitches the platinum plan. I'm not making this up. He's calling it the platinum plan. Because apparently he's been to like a black nightclub lately. They got like the picture you stand in front of, and it's all about platinum. We've gone from gold to platinum. He says, black people like platinum. Let's call it platinum. I mean, So I've been wrestling with this. I was talking to Leslie over the weekend. I said, is it that he just, has such little regard for who we are and our intellect and our ability to see past his BS that in his world, we are one-dimensional characters who have no nuance, no ability to see, ooh, Donald Trump has promised us $500 billion if we elect him again, that we can't stop and say, well, Donald Trump had 4 years to give us $500 billion. Why has he not done that yet? Right. Ooh, Donald Trump's going to make Juneteenth a holiday. Well, Donald Trump's been, you do know he's not a candidate. He is the president. He's had 4 years to make that an agenda item. He has not done it, but now he promises it to you as though somehow he is going to be something different. The only group that Donald Trump has been loyal to without question has been white people. His cabinet is almost all white. The people around him in almost every photograph are all white. He has the least diverse team. I mean, you got to go back probably, I don't know, man, to Eisenhower or Truman or somebody to find something less diverse for the handlers who are around him. And somehow he wants us to believe that he's going to flip a switch and be somebody now that he has not been. I mean, this is beyond insulting. And to think that somehow we don't know this is just the platinum.
Let me push you on something, though. Let me push you on something. I just want to push you on something because I think you give him too much credit. He has only been good for rich white people and mostly rich white men, right? Poor white folk. I mean, I want to be very serious when I say this. Poor white folk have gotten jammed up totally during this Trump administration, but somehow or another they are still buying the lies that he says that somehow benefits him, they think benefits them in their community. He has only looked after really his Fortune 500 friends who are, multimillionaires. If you are working class, middle class, even upper middle class, white American, you have gotten jammed up during the Trump administration. I just wanted to push back on that. I think you give him too much credit.
I don't think so, because I think poor white folk have gotten what they wanted from Trump, which is somebody who's going to put his foot on the throats of non-white people. So if you're
that was his sense, yeah. But I think there are white folk that don't agree with that though too.
No, of course not. I'm speaking obviously about the Trump supporters because we rock with a ton of white allies who are out there doing their best to get him out of office. So thanks for kind of pushing for the clarification. But for those people whose lives are somehow better just because you think at least I'm not black, and that the fact that you don't have access to quality health care or good housing or living wage jobs, it's somehow okay because at least I'm better than them. For that particular group of people, Proud Boys, folk out here, marching and who are really all into taking America back from us. Those who just hated Barack Obama, not because of policy, but just because of his black skin, and who felt that we have become too uppity. For that group of people, he is more than delivered. He has not toned down the rhetoric. He has ramped it up. His whole campaign is an appeal to them, is it not? That they're coming for you. They want your stuff. They want to come to the suburbs and take your women. Dude. His whole campaign is like from the 1930s. And so, even here's the last part. Amy Coney Barrett. Yeah. So you've already put 2 white people in the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. You could have at least given a nod to Cuban Americans who have been, the way in which black voters have been loyal to Democrats, 90+%, Cuban Americans have been that same demographic to the Republican Party. And when you have a legitimate chance to do that, and by the way, help yourself with Florida, and then to turn your back on them, that's what I'm saying. This guy is only loyal to his white base, period.
Well, yeah, I will give you that. He's losing the evangelical vote, right? And so I think in some ways, Judge Barrett was a nod to the white evangelicals who really wanted him in. She's a part of the sort of a cult-like community in that space. She's very much anti-abortion. She's very much anti-Affordable Care Act. So yes, I mean, in that regard, I could very much see that. And the sad part about it is that Judge Gora, who is in Florida, would have been against the exact same things. The only difference was that she had brown skin, and that she was a Cuban American. And this would have been a real way for him to thumb his nose at Fidel Castro if he wanted to, and he chose not to do that. So I hear you on that. I just think the material condition of poor white folk has gotten worse during this administration, and that's really what the point I'm trying to make. Like they're voting against their own self-interest. So
but when you're that voter, you always do, right? I mean, so it's the I mean, so people won't. So for example, a lot of the folk who hated Barack Obama, who now say, don't take away the ACA. Well, dude, that's Obamacare. Did you not know that? No. I like the have you seen those studies?
I've seen those. Yeah, I've seen the studies. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? It's like, I hate Obamacare, but I love the ACA. It's like, oh my Lord. Have you ever, I'm going to give you a new word for your vocabulary. It's called semantics. Do you know what it means? Yes, you're dealing in semantics right now, my friend. No, they're not the same. Oh my God. Hey, listen, folks, if you're on Facebook Live, share the video for us. We still got just about a half an hour left on this morning and want to get others in. Glad to see Bernita feel better. See that you're under the weather. Glad to see Calinthia, Gary. What's up, Dawn? Glad to see Nicole and Carmen. Man, I'm telling you, folk are coming in. I tell you, folk are here. Casa, who is even in the house on this morning. So we talked about his tax returns, talked about the Black Platinum Plan.
Yes.
But what about this Supreme Court justice nomination?
Okay.
Will it? Yeah. So who is Amy?
Yeah. Well, so she is actually a justice on the district court and the 11th Circuit District Court, which is actually one step below the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
She is from Illinois. She's been there most of her life, and is a real conservative justice. I mean, she's uber conservative. Her opinions do that. There's also been a critique of her where she has spoken at law schools and basically said people that their faiths should override the law, so that their faith should be shaping the law, which is in some ways, if your faith is gracious and loving and caring and kind, that's probably not a bad thing. When it's judgmental and condemning, well, that's a very different story, which is the lane that she lives in. So there's some real concern about her, and actually they expected this is going to come up during the hearings and that they're going to have for her when she goes before the Senate to be confirmed, the confirmation hearings, that she will have some struggle with this. But I think Trump lined up his votes before this even got totally announced. He knew what was happening, what was coming down the road, which is part of the reason why Mitt Romney is not going to challenge this, primarily because people from the Mormon faith are both anti-abortion and against the ACA. They know that both of these things will be up under the Supreme Court, provided Trump stays in office, and it could potentially turn these things around. So there's a lot going on with this. Now, here's the thing. Dick Durbin, who is the senator from Illinois, who is the senior most member on the Senate Judiciary Committee, has basically said we can slow the process down, but we will not be able to stop the confirmation process. Right. There's some procedural moves that they could do to slow it down. But more than likely, that Judge Barrett will be confirmed. They've already scheduled hearings for her on October 12th and October 13th. The Judiciary Committee will make its recommendation on the 14th and will send it to the full Senate, which McConnell will then schedule a vote. So she could very well be installed and sworn in by the end of October, probably just days before the November 3rd election, which is what Trump wants, which would be record time for a U.S. Supreme Court justice to go from nomination to confirmation to installation in a process. Normally it takes 70 days. This would be less than 30.
Well, I tell you, we got to take a quick break, and we come back. I definitely want to talk about this more because, I think as we think about this upcoming election on November the 3rd, we need to learn from the mistakes of 2016, because it's not as though some of us, like the two of us and others, weren't saying this to, people who were opposed to Donald Trump, but who just could not stomach voting for Hillary Clinton and just kept thinking, I'm gonna throw my vote away because I just can't do that. I've got principles. They seem to be, to me, Royster, some of the loudest critics of Trump right now. And I'm thinking you can't have your cake and eat it too. I mean, so listen, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, let's break this down, because this does have a direct impact on our lives today and perhaps the next 30 or 40. We'll be right back. It's the Power Hour.
Pico has many ways to help you lower your energy usage and save money at home. Here's one. If your heating and cooling system is more than 20 years old, it may be time for your contractor to replace it with a high-efficiency Energy Star certified model. You'll get a rebate from Pico and save on your monthly electric bill. You'll find a list of new heating and cooling system rebates at pico.com/rebates. Or you can call 1-888-5-PICO-SAVE for all the details. Plus, find instant discounts on smart thermostats and more at pico.com/marketplace. There's free shipping on orders over $49.
We've all adjusted our daily routines in these unprecedented times. And for many of us, voting at our polling place in November is a routine that means so much. But did you know that every Pennsylvania voter can vote by mail from home this year? Whether you're a Pennsylvania senior, essential worker, or simply someone who needs more flexibility to vote within a challenging schedule, voting by mail allows you to make your voice heard at the ballot box on your schedule while protecting your family's health. You can turn your mailbox into a ballot box by simply visiting votespa.com on your computer or any mobile device to request your mail-in ballot. With November 3rd around the corner, it's more important than ever to request your mail-in ballot today. It's simple, secure, convenient, and safe. This year, you shouldn't have to choose between your vote and your health. We're all in this together, and voting by mail gives you the power to make your voice heard. So sign up at votespa.com or return your mail-in ballot application to your county election office today. Paid for by Power Interfaith.
Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation?
Follow us on social media
Using the hashtag onWURD.
Be heard.
Stay connected to Word Radio.
Independent Black Media.
The Word Radio newsletter.
Keeping you informed, engaged, and connected.
Sign up by visiting wordradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on Word Radio. Messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese. Exclusive articles and multimedia content and resources.
Stay informed
with the Word Radio newsletter. Now, a traffic update
on Word Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by CVS. Still not too bad as you make your way here in Philadelphia. Just mutual volume spots beginning to build. Southbound 95 slowing Cotman down through Bridge through a work zone. Westbound Vine Expressway, Parkway through the Schuylkill Expressway. Just late there this morning. Westbound Schuylkill Expressway getting heavy from Bear Avenue through 30th. Left lane block there with construction. Further west, no other issues. Eastbound 76 still looks pretty good. The Boulevard Route 1 southbound, no problems there into the Schuylkill Expressway. PA Turnpike, Blue Route 476 moving fine. 55 northbound getting busy north of Deptford now into 42. CVS pharmacists have a proprietary search tool that analyzes ways to help lower your prescription costs. Come in or call today to get a free prescription savings review at CVS. Savings vary. Not all patients eligible for savings. Ask pharmacists for details. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, Independent Black Media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour with Mark Kelly Tyler and Dwayne David Royster. We are continuing our conversation about the appointment of the nomination of Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the U.S. Supreme Court and the process that's taking place. Doc, you were asking a question. I want to go back and make sure that we cover what you were talking about.
Well, I guess, as we look at this, reshaping, and this being the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett and the fight that's going to happen. So now Democrats actually have something to go to the polls for, right? Is protecting health care, because most people think that she is that deciding vote to totally eliminate the ACA. She's been critical of Chief Justice Roberts, and she says that, you know, this actually should be called SCOTUS care, not Obamacare, right? But I mean, because she says that they basically rewrote the law to save it. Now, so 4 years ago, we had this debate with, you know, with people who were like-minded, who just thought that a Trump presidency would give us everything that we have received. So nothing that's happened has really surprised me. And, you know, and yet they seem to be the most vocal right now and, you know, criticizing these things. And I'm saying, well, you know, you had a choice. You know, I remember people in Pennsylvania telling me, well, Pennsylvania is reliably blue, so it doesn't really matter. Well, Pennsylvania was lost, right? And now we're hearing the same kind of conversations come up again. Look, elections have consequences, people. And while we're talking about elections, the ballots will be coming out soon. If you're getting a mail-in ballot, please do not go out the house naked. Okay?
Here we go.
You can't. Just don't. I mean, first of all, you should not go out the house naked. And but make sure your ballot is not naked. If you don't know what that means, just do a Google search for naked ballots, Pennsylvania, and they will explain to you how to actually fill out your ballot. All right, because it is important. Each ballot is going to be challenged. So we don't have time really for people who are into the, you know, the whatabouts and, well, this one is just as bad as the other one. You cannot tell me that a Hillary Clinton presidency would have given you these 3 Supreme Court justices.
So, yeah, I mean, let's just
period.
Let's just call it for what it is, though, right? It's just straight up sexism. And Pennsylvania proved itself to be incredibly sexist. How do I know this? So at the time in 2016, when the election was occurring, Hillary Clinton was at the top of the ticket for the Democrats, right? She was running as the president of the United States. I cannot forget the name. I forgot the name of the U.S. Senator candidate, and you know who I'm talking about.
Katie McGinty.
Katie McGinty, yes, because we met with Katie McGinty. I remember meeting with Katie McGinty.
Yeah.
She ran for U.S. Senate. And then there were a series of people who were running for statewide row offices in the state of Pennsylvania at the exact same time, all white men.
The Attorney General, Treasurer, and the Auditor.
Yes. So here's what happened. In that election, Hillary Clinton lost by 44,000 votes. Katie McGinty lost by a little bit more than that to Pat Toomey. And then all 3 white men that were running for the row offices at the state level, the Attorney General, the Solicitor,
the Treasurer, and the Auditor,
and the Auditor, they all won their seats
by about 100,000, by over 100,000 votes each.
Yes. So the challenge here is that what we faced in Pennsylvania was a level of sexism. Now let's just look at some of the demographics of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is over 80% white, right? It's actually kind of funny because people do not realize this. People, especially people from Philly, think of Pennsylvania as Philly. Philly is it's actually less than a tenth of the size of the state of Pennsylvania. Right, it's just very dense. And if you include the southeastern region, when you get to adding Chester County, Delaware County, Bucks County, Montgomery County to Philadelphia, now you're at about 4.5, 5 million people out of 12 million people that live in the state. So the southeast corner is very dense and full of a lot of people. But the state population of black folk is like, I think around 6 or 7%. It's not that big. So Pennsylvania is the 4th oldest state in terms of demographics, right? So we actually almost rival Florida in terms of the numbers of retirees that live in the state. So what became very evident to me in this election, in the 2016 election, was that we're old and we're sexist as hell, and that we have a problem with women leadership. Now, this poses a challenge, not only in this particular election, but because that Biden chose Kamala Harris as a running mate, not only did he choose a woman, but he chose a black woman, right? So Pennsylvania is also racist. So this is a little bit of a challenge and sexist at the same time. And then a lot of people are deeply concerned about the fact that Joe Biden might not make it through his first term, and then Kamala Harris becomes the first African-American woman president, or first woman president of any race for that matter. So I just think that, my concern always about Pennsylvania, and this is why folk have to turn out. Now, there was actually a backlash amongst black men. There was a study shown that against black men, that when Kamala Harris was chosen as the running mate, that black men, actually a larger percentage of black men would probably wind up voting for Trump. So, I just think that this is very problematic. We need to get over ourselves. One of the things about Barrett's nomination is that this People of Praise group that she belongs to believes deeply in male headship in the families, and that women are required to be very submissive. As a matter of fact, each man and woman that belongs to the organization were assigned leaders to work with them. The leader of the men was called head. The leader of the women was called handmaiden. They changed it a few years ago when the Handmaiden's Tale came out. But there's also going to be this notion about very formal, rigid understanding about household structures that do not reflect most demographics in the United States right now. So this could be a really big challenge as we look in the days and weeks and years ahead.
Well, let me just say, you can't change anything if you don't vote, right? And so Sheila is asking if I will explain what naked ballots mean. Just simply put, when your mail-in ballot arrives, it will come with 2 envelopes that you must put your ballot in. Fill out your ballot first in black ink. You can use blue, but everyone is suggesting use black. The same color for your entire ballot. Fill out each box. Don't check it. Don't put a little X in it. Completely fill it in, color it in like you're on an old SAT test or a Scantron. That's dating us.
Mm-hmm.
Then fold that ballot, place it in the secrecy envelope. Do not write on the secrecy envelope. Don't do anything to it. Place it in there, seal it, close it, use glue, use something moist, whatever, seal it. That then puts clothing on your ballot. It is no longer naked. Now put the extra layer. Let's just put it like this. The secrecy envelope is like your underwear. There you go. The outer ballot is like your clothing. So put your underwear on first and then put your clothing on. So take the secrecy envelope with your ballot in it, place it in the outer envelope, seal it as well, write your name on it and your information, sign it, and use the same signature as you have done previously on your voter registration, and send it back in the mail. Or do one step better, walk it down to one of the 17 drop boxes in Philadelphia or in your county, or take it to the official county seat wherever elections take place. Yeah. But that will ensure that your vote is going to be counted. Listen, we got a couple of callers on. George has something to say about elections. We got about 3 minutes left on the show, George, so you got 30 seconds.
Good morning. If you go up to Pennsylvania, anywhere up there in the rural areas, the last time Trump ran, that's all you've seen from the time you got on the turnpike to the time you got off, no matter where. I mean, you can go back there as far as Bear. You can go up there in Montgomery, Mobile. You can go anywhere up there. You might see maybe 10 signs anywhere. That's how, first of all, they messed up with their Medicaid. They finally found out that the medicine is free, and they can use their medical card and everything else. So, don't think that, those rural areas are dumb as they act, and they so happy with Trump. And the more trash come out about it, the better it be. And the most important thing here is I'm finally glad that a lot of people have finally gotten to their head to put all that pettiness aside about Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, the Bernie fans. They finally on board of seeing that how dangerous this man. This woman is more dangerous than Trump would be. With Pence, Trump, and her, man, slavery gonna be legal again. Have a good one.
All right, George. Legal slavery. Some people would say that already feels that way. And let's see, Will, got about 30 seconds. What's up, Will Mega?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Bottom line, the Philadelphia Democratic Party needs to go heavily after black men, because these campaigns have not. Hillary Clinton's campaign did not, and that's why you saw 14% of black men voting for Trump, although we still outvoted Democrat more than white men and white women. So I want us to remember the reason why we lost that election is because 62% of white men voted for Trump, and 47% of white women voted for Trump.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, listen, hey, on our way out, let me just say, remember.
That's according to the, those are Pew Research statistics.
Wow. Well, hey, here's one you'll like as well, Will. Another research thing, as I toss it back to Bishop. Trump tells on average 23.8 lies a day. The average person does 1.2 small lies. You know, like, does this look good on me? Mm-hmm. You know, those kind of little lies. You know, but Trump does about almost 24 lies a day, and somehow he is still in this race. Let that sink in, folks.
Absolutely. Well, listen, it's been a great show, a lot of energy, a lot of things talking about today. Deeply appreciate you, Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler, Senior Pastor Mother Bethel, AME.
Go Phillies!
Director, they're not in the race anymore either. Hey,
Go
Koisa,
Eagles!
Thank you, Koisa, for everything that you're doing. The Eagles aren't going to make it either.
Go Sixers!
So, the Sixers are out. It's over. So, yes, just don't rub it in. Please don't rub it in. We're trying to go home. And listen, you're listening to the Power Hour. We'll be back first thing tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. with the latest in politics, news, and opinion. We appreciate you watching with us. Thank you to all of our callers that called in and everybody that commented on our Facebook Live. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Go change the damn world. Peace.
I do what I can when I can while I can for my people. While the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night, that's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones.
Former Vice President Joe Biden